Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in today. My name is Lara. I'm the community manager at European Leadership University. Before we get started and before I introduce our guest speaker today, I will quickly tell you a little bit about this series and about ELU. So we are a fairly newly founded university offering online flexible programs in the tech domain. We do this because we see a shortage of skills and a shortage also of talent in the Dutch market. So we upskill or reskill global talent, for example, to become a data scientist. And that is also why we're offering this webinar series, A Day in the Life, where we're speaking to people who are working in the field of data scientists, in different roles to get an understanding of how they got started, and also for you to get any tips and insight into the day-to-day of a data science role. So if you have any questions during the webinar, you can also use the chat or the Q&A boxes below, and I'll make sure to ask our guest Joep today these questions as well. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining today, Joep.
No problem, no problem. Good evening, everyone. Afternoon.
So Joep he is a product owner in data science, and he'll explain in a little bit exactly what that means and what responsibilities he has as a product owner. He's doing this for Heijams, where he's been working for 4 years. He started out as a trainee, so I'm sure we're also going to talk a little bit about his journey within the company. And he is an engineer, also with degrees from the University of Rotterdam in Applied Sciences and also the Technical University in Delft. He's working within data science in the field of construction sector. So I also love to see what it means to do data science within the field of construction and in the construction sector. We'll touch on that a little bit. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below and we'll make sure to go over them by the end of the webinar. So first, I'd love to ask you, Joep, and thank you again so much for joining us today. For the non-experts, for people like me who do not really have a technical background themselves, what is it that you really do as a product owner in data science?
Well, as a product owner, maybe a little bit of background about Heijams to start off, that people know where I'm coming from, because it's a really conservative industry. We're the third largest construction company in the Netherlands. So that means we have it's 100 years old almost as well. So we are a very conservative company. So that's the world I'm working in. That'll also shape a lot of the context that I'm talking about. But a product owner is mainly responsible for making sure that the products that we're envisioning to make, so data products in this case, where data science plays a huge role, that we make those in the right order. So it's a lot of stakeholder management, talk to the people that actually want the products. It's getting the team in order that we work together towards the same goal, and prioritizing what we do. So those are the main tasks that a product owner has, which differs throughout the companies, but that's at least how we do it.
Great. And you said it's a fairly old company, but you've been working there, I think, also as a program manager in innovation. So what does it mean to innovate a company that is already 100 years old?
What it means is that it's very difficult to do, especially when it comes to data science. So when we want to innovate, a stupid example, but we want a new kind of wall, that's easy to understand for the people. But when you're talking about data-driven services, then it's a completely new field for them, and it's really difficult to get stakeholders along, because you're often not even speaking the same language. There are a couple of steps that are really important. It's creating awareness of all the people that you talk with, what it's that we're doing and what are the goals that we have. And then you start slowly changing, but it really takes, you have to keep sending the data gospel, so to speak, to get people along and to find the common ground as well there. So it's really, it's fun to do, absolutely, don't get me wrong, but it's also a lot of hard work to get people along and get them on the train where we go.
I can imagine. So could you give an example of kind of a regular workday for you? What does it look like?
So we usually start with a daily stand. That's always how we start the day. So people will talk about what you did yesterday and what are you going to do today. And that's especially in Corona times. That's now we do digitally, of course, but it's a really important touch point for people to stay in touch with each other, and also to talk about what we're running into. every day. And then usually I have a couple of catch-ups with each team member. So we have a couple of members in the team, a data scientist, data engineers, and data translators. Maybe I'll get into those later, what those mean. And I have catch-up meetings with those people to get things going, and a lot of meetings with other stakeholders, customers, stakeholders within the company, management. So it's a lot of meetings actually, and sometimes make a roadmap. We have a backlog that we work with. It's basically where all the work is that we need to do, which I try to prioritize that. So it's a lot of different things on a single day. But I don't do any coding or stuff like that. That's not my forte. Yeah.
All right, so I see that you've been trained as an engineer and you work with a lot of data scientists, but as I understand, you are not necessarily a data scientist yourself.
No, that's right. I'm not a data scientist myself, so I have a mechanical engineering background where you get a little bit of coding, but data, there's hardly any statistics in engineering because it needs to work or not. So I had no background in data, but I do have a background in innovation management. So I started out as a technical trainee, but the construction industry is not my kind of engineering, so to say. It's a lot of doing the same stuff over and over again. So I really wanted different things, and also how to put technology, make it business value for Heijams. So I really shifted towards business development, and then over time, it started getting into technology, and then we hired a data scientist who I was guiding, and that's the way how I got into data. So I'm learning still every day. I mean, everybody in this field, I guess, is learning every day, with me even more so.
Yeah, of course, it's quickly changing, so everyone, including data scientists, have to keep up. So you are also creating value for the business. Can you give an example of the impacts that you make on Heijmans in this case?
Yeah, so we have a couple of places where we make impact. One of the things is that we try to make what we already do, try to do that in a more efficient or better way. So that's maybe current markets where we're focusing on. And we also have startups which we have that are data-driven. So for example, we have a smart building platform where we have all kinds of sensors throughout buildings. And we try to make sense of the data that comes out of these sensors. And an example would be now in Corona times, we've made a solution that can measure if people are actually keeping to the social distancing rules. So that's immediate value of a product that we made that we can immediately bring to the market as well, really quickly, and start providing customer value. Yeah, and in that way also creating value for Heijmans, of course, because customer value usually
returns.
Translates into euros. Yep.
And you said you have a lot of meetings. It seems like you're working with different stakeholders and with different team members. Now you said you work with a team or kind of guided team of data professionals, data scientists. You also mentioned data translator. So could you kind of walk us through the setup of this team and the kind of skill sets or the different roles in that data team, including yourself?
Yeah. Sure. So we have a data scientist, which is let's say the core of the data team, because we have an analytics team, which our goal is to create insights from data. It's a very global goal, but that's what you need data scientists for, to make machine learning models, all the beautiful technical stuff. But as I said, we have the data scientist. It's the only English-speaking team within Heijmans, so that's already a language barrier. You have, we're talking about all kinds of different technologies. We're talking about completely different skills. So that's why we have a translating role as well. We call it the data translator, and it's sort of a business consultant. So they're in between the business and the data team to really make sure that the translation between these two is really going well. And that's the English-Dutch, but mostly the technical stuff, that we're going in the right direction. So that's the data scientist and the data translator. And the translators, they are mostly responsible for having customer contact, getting the right needs, okay, what do they want? But also a little bit the visualization of the eventual things that we make. And then the third element we have is data engineer. And you can imagine if a data scientist, they make a model, it needs to run in some kind of IT environment. So they are responsible for making sure that this box that the data scientist made, they put it somewhere and that it's running and can be used by our customers. So those are the three main elements we have, and also product owner who's more on the making sure that all these people work together.
Yeah, I think the title of data translator and analytics translator, we see that more and more as companies realize that it's important to translate between tech and business as well. You said your role can be quite challenging, but at the same time is fun. What is it that you like the most about your job?
I get the most kick out of making complex technical solutions work, and especially with data, you can really amaze people. So amazing people or surprising people is what I like most. That they're actually flabbergasted of how that it can actually work, because they think of really basic stuff that data can do, basic dashboarding, stuff like that. But when you get into predictions, you can really astound people, and that's when I see the wow moment on people's faces. That's when we made it. That's a good point. And also creating a business impact. Just simply said, making money for the company. That means that we use the technology that we're making in a valuable way. So those are the most fun things for me. And it's mostly interacting with the customers and determining what they want. And then figuring out, it's basically a huge puzzle, and how do you fit all the pieces together to make it work? That's what I like most. And maybe a little bit less is the stakeholder management and all the other stuff that comes with the whole the data team. But that's it's not fun to do, but I get the most kick out of the technical stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I would love to also talk a little bit about your journey to the role that you have today. So you said you are an engineer by training, and you started out in this company as a trainee. So how did you get to this position as the product owner in data science?
Well, like I said, it was a growth path. I first started out in business development, so I shifted from actually an engineering job towards business development, which was more, like I said, translating technical possibilities into business value. And then the Heijams has a focus on data, so we have technology focused in the strategy. At least we have a part about it. So we wanted to hire a data scientist, and we have Heijams Academy of Data Science. It's really close by. It's a collaboration between two universities. And we had the opportunity to hire somebody from there, a trainee who would join us for a year. And I was asked to guide the trainee and to figure out how we can start this data team. And that's actually how my journey got started. And then I started doing Coursera courses, a lot of on-the-job learning. I haven't had any formal data training, but it's going quite well, actually. You can learn a lot on the job and from Coursera. Yeah.
Great. So you might not have the traditional data science skill set like coding, you said, but what is the skill set that you actually most use in your role, or what type of person might this role fit best?
You need to be able to get a helicopter view of what's going on. And that sounds really generic, but technical people, especially data scientists in my team, I noticed it as well. They really get into the nitty-gritty details, and they sometimes forget why they're doing it. So it's constantly being able to challenge your team. Okay, is this the direction that we need to go towards, or is it something that's not really valuable? So it's really being able to take a step back, look at the whole picture, figure out what's going on, and then making the right choices. A good skill set is also to not doubt too much, because speed is important. So sometimes making a decision is better than no decision, because just to have to keep people going and that we learn. And you don't need to be afraid to fail, because you're going to fail for sure. You're going to make products that are not really relevant to your customers, and of course it feels bad, but you need to be able to learn from that. And the social skills the soft skills are more important than the technical stuff, by far. You need to be able to get in touch with the customer, really empathize with what they're issues are, so we can make a relevant product. So mostly it's about the soft skills, actually.
Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people, when they think of data science, they might think more of different startups, of course, of like the tech giants, Google, Facebook, and perhaps more recently also fintech and banking, but not so quickly about the construction sector. So what do you think about kind of the value that data science brings for the construction sector, or the promise of data science for this sector?
Well, as in most sectors, the promise is of course huge, but now the question is how do we make this promise a reality? It's a really conventional way of working, and the biggest learning point, or the biggest value that we can create, is that we actually start learning from the past, because that's what data science is all about: learning from the past and making better decisions in the future based on the data. And construction companies, they don't learn. Every project, they say, is a prototype. Every project is new, but there are truths somewhere in the past, but that's why our margins are really low, and we're happy if we have a 5% margin, for example, and it's really not very high compared to other industries. So the biggest value is going to be in being able to learn from the past, and then it's all across all kinds of spectrum. So it's about how do we build projects? We can learn about how to build them better. Learning about how much stuff costs, we can learn about that better. So that's the biggest takeaway for data science, at least in the first few steps. And of course, but that's more robotics, automation is going to play a big role, because there's fewer and fewer talent in the industry. So we're going to need to be able to have robots that can brick a wall, for example. And that's also related to data science, because you need a lot of data science to make those robots. But mostly the first part is going to be the big value for us.
Yeah, by the look of it, you were kind of a part of the adoption of data science within this company, is that right?
Yeah, so it's a really, we're still adopting. I would say we're still very much at the start of our data journey, so to say. So there's a lot of stuff happening to get data. I just came out of a meeting about data management, data governance, so that we get the whole company on board with the same data vision, so to speak. So it's really an ongoing process, and it's especially in a company like this. The data team has existed for 2 years now, but I can imagine it's 3 years until we really get the value that we want to generate from it.
And is part of your role also to speak with maybe people who are higher up in the organization or other teams, and to show them the value that data science does bring to the company as it's
Yeah, so as a product owner, for my product owner role, you speak a lot with management and the board to at least get them on board with what you're doing, because eventually they're paying the bill for us. So we really need to get them on board that what we're doing is valuable. And a lot of meetings with customers, but that's more from the data translator part, that you have a lot of meetings with different kinds of customers, stakeholders within the company, to first of all do sales towards them. So you need to actually convince them that they need us. That's step one, and that's a really difficult step to do. And then keeping contact with them to actually develop the products that they want. But actually, the sales part is most difficult. And sometimes I think selling a service like this, because we're actually, I like to say we're an internal advisory company. Sometimes it's even harder to do it internally than to sell it outside. A service like ours would maybe sell better outside than it's doing internally now.
So to switch gears a little bit, some people who are watching or even joining us live, they might be thinking of a role like yours or a career in data science. So what is some advice you would give to future data scientists or data professionals?
Really work on the soft skills. I see it in the data scientists we have, the data engineers we have. The soft skills are so important for getting your technical knowledge to the people that you want. Technical knowledge most people have. There is of course a little bit of difference in how skilled some data scientists are compared to others. But the big difference between them is in the soft skills and how they're able to relate to the people that they speak to, and how to create a great data story. It's about storytelling what you find in the data. So that's really the most important part. Work on the soft skills, work on your communication skills, how you present, how you tell a story. That's where you can make a difference compared to the lot there, because there's more and more data scientists coming. That's really where you can make the difference.
Great. And of course, the soft skills, it's usually not something that might be taught at university or during an educational program. So would you advise people to kind of get some internship or traineeship experience, or what could be ways to develop those skills?
A good way would be to, like you said, start working at a company and don't be afraid to take the stage. Really take the opportunities you get to speak in front of people, to tell the story, because that's how you learn. There's no book where you can learn this. There's only one way, and that's by doing it. And of course, some people are more talented than others, but I honestly believe that everybody can learn it, how to do it. But it's learning by doing. And like you said, yeah, you can get it, maybe a presentations course at university or wherever you go to school. But it's really about doing. So don't be afraid, get out there. And of course, you're going to fail a couple of the first times, but you'll get better eventually.
Great. There's also a question from someone who is watching live. The question is, can a person from a finance background enter the data science field? Or maybe can a person who does not have a very technical background enter the data science field?
Yeah, absolutely. Our lead data scientist has a finance background. So he has a master's in finance and a bachelor's as well. And if you have the technical skills, and it's mostly the mindset of how to get to the solution, you can learn the technical skills on Coursera, stuff like this, on online academies, or get a professional degree like the guy at our place did. He went to Hieronymus Academy of Data Science, and there's a postmaster degree, and that way you can really. There's people from neuroscience, there's psychologists, there's finance people, there's biologists, there's all kinds of different people that do this professional program to get some basic skills in data science, but then it's how do you apply it in your field. So I think anybody can get into data science, yeah, especially finance maybe, because finance already has a lot of numbers and explaining the world by looking at figures. So finance is one you see often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should also say that we have had students in our program as well, in our data science master, who came from a finance or a statistics background. So indeed, that familiarity with statistics and numbers might be a very good kind of way to move into the field. So we're about to close off. If there's no more questions from the audience, I would say that one of my final questions would be, what do you think is currently one of the most important issues, or what is something that you think we should pay attention to in the field of data science?
One of the big issues might be explainability. Explainable AI is a kind of a hot topic. At least at my company, I sense a lot of distrust of a black box kind of machine learning models. So data science, really to show the value. I mean, we're starting to show the value, but people still have a little bit of distrust about it. So explainability is really, really important. That data scientists can explain why a certain answer came out of the model. And that's really that's a challenge at least, to really get people on board with the whole data science transition.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Joep. Thank you so much for all the advice, all the insight that you gave into your role, into working for Heijams and in the construction field, and also some advice for maybe people who are entering into this field. This session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel as well, so if you want to watch anything back, you can do this later on. And in 2 weeks, we will be speaking with another data professional and their journey as a data scientist as well. So thank you everyone, and thank you again, Joep.
Thank you very much.